If only he knew the drummer at the festival was beating the rhythm of his father's murder, he wouldn't have danced so proudly.
Every city has a story it buries under its loudest music. Kenta City buried one under a drum, and the son of the dead man danced right on top of it, smiling, proud, unaware. Listen carefully. What you're about to hear is the kind of truth that does not knock before it enters. The night sky over Kenta was alive with fire and noise. Thousands packed the square for the grand Okabe Street Festival. Colored lights hung between poles. Suya smoke drifted through the air. Children laughed, women clapped, men shouted, and in the center of it all, Taiwo. He wore white from head to toe. His waist moved like water, finding its own path. The crowd roared his name like thunder. Taiwo! 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 He raised both hands and laughed from his belly. This was the moment he had dreamed of since he was a small boy eating thin soup in a leaking room. Behind him, a masked drummer in a red wrapper pounded a deep, rolling rhythm. Heavy, ancient, strange. Then an old woman near the front pushed through the crowd, her eyes wide with something that was not joy. She screamed, "That is the death beat. That is the rhythm they played the night his father was murdered." The square went cold. Taiwo froze mid-step. His arms were still in the air. His smile was still on his face, but his eyes found the drummer in red, and for one terrible moment, it felt like the drum was beating his own name. To understand how Taiwo reached that stage, you must first understand the room he came from. One room, 4 people. A kerosene lamp that coughed more smoke than light. The walls leaked when it rained. The ceiling carried a dark stain shaped like a hand. His mother cooked thin soup and called it dinner with a straight face, because what else could she do? Taiwo's father had died when Taiwo was 11. Nobody explained how. Nobody explained why. Just a knock at the door, some men in black, and then a white cloth. After that, Taiwo danced for coins at roadside parties, naming ceremonies, any gathering that might drop a few naira into his palm. Rich boys watched from tinted car windows and laughed. Not with him, but at him. He swore every night, "I will not die poor. I will not die forgotten. I will not die like my father," with nothing and no answers. That hunger lived inside him like a second heartbeat. And hungry people, you should know, are the easiest kind to catch. That same night, after a performance, Chizoba sat beside him and said quietly, "Be careful what kind of road answers a desperate person." Taiwo did not listen. Chizoba was 2 years older than Taiwo, and she carried their father's silence like a heavy basket on her head. She remembered things Taiwo had been too young to notice. How their father changed in his final weeks, stopped singing at breakfast, came home late, sat in the corner staring at nothing, whispered on the phone and cut the call the moment anyone walked in. Something was following him, Chizoba said. Before he died, Papa was afraid. He found out something. Something a powerful man did not want known. Mama refused to speak about it. Every time the subject was raised, she left the room. Her silence was its own kind of answer. Taiwo got angry. Poor people use fear as an excuse to stay small. Papa stayed small. Look what it got him. Chizoba looked at him. The road that looks like a shortcut sometimes leads straight to the place you are trying to escape. The next morning, Taiwo went out for a performance. The crowd was thin. The coins few. He wiped sweat from his face and stared down the dusty road. Then a black SUV with tinted windows rolled slowly along the curb and stopped beside him. The window came down. The man inside had the kind of face that made you feel he already knew you. He wore a cream agbada, a gold watch, and shoes too clean for the dusty road. He smiled like a man who had never once been told no. "I watched you dance just now," he said. "Most boys your age have energy. You have command." His name was Chief Bayo, the man who organized the biggest festivals, who put unknown artists on large stages, who moved through rooms of power like he owned the air inside them. Talent is nothing without access, Chief Bio said. And access is exactly what I provide. He opened the car door. Cold air rushed out and touched Taiwo's face like a hand offering water to someone dying of thirst. Leather seats gleamed. The car smelled of expensive cologne. Taiwo looked back down the road. The thin crowd, the plastic chairs, the few coins in his pocket. Then he looked at the open door. He got in. As the car pulled away, Chief Bio said softly, "If you enter my world, you cannot think like a poor boy again." Taiwo nodded. He did not know yet what that simple nod would cost him. The world Chief Bio took him into had no dust, no thin soup, no leaking roofs. It had rooftop lounges where the city sparkled below, like scattered diamonds. Polished floors that reflected your face back, rooms full of perfume and people who shook your hand and smiled without their eyes joining in. Taiwo watched and learned fast. He understood quickly that this world had its own language. Watches told your rank, shoes told your money, where you sat at a table told your power. Chief Bio began teaching him the vocabulary of status. But something unsettled him. Everyone here was performing, not just on stage, but in every conversation, every handshake, every laugh. One large theater with no real audience except themselves. Then Chief Bio handed him a designer jacket, borrowed, but beautiful. Someone snapped a photo. Taiwo saw himself in a long mirror. For one moment, he did not recognize the boy staring back. He looked like someone who had always belonged here. He did not want to take the jacket off. He did not want to go back to the leaking room. That was the first trap. The moment a man begins to want the costume more than his own skin. Or the truth about the glamour arrived in pieces, the way bad news always does. Chief Bio sat Taiwo down one afternoon and explained it plainly. The luxury cars were rented for photo shoots. The designer clothes belonged to stylists. The investors at those rooftop parties were mostly broke men keeping up appearances, spending borrowed money, doing secret favors to stay in the circle. Even the popular artists Taiwo admired were drowning. In debt, in demands, in promises made to powerful men whose names were never spoken out loud. "So, it is all fake?" Taiwo asked. Chief Bio smiled the way a teacher smiles at a slow student. "The connections are real. The doors that open are real. The money when it flows is very real." He leaned forward. "Real power is not about being clean, Taiwo. It is about staying useful." Taiwo sat with that for a long time. He should have stood up and walked out. He should have gone home to his thin mat and called his sister. Instead, he looked at Chief Bio and said, "What do I need to do?" That was the first yes. And first yeses, you must understand, are the ones that make all the others easier to say. The first performance Chief Bio arranged paid Taiwo more money than he had ever held at once. He stood in the bathroom afterward, counting it twice. Then a third time. His hands shook, not from fear, but from something close to disbelief that felt almost like joy. He bought food on the way home, real food, chicken, rice, ripe plantain. He set it on the table in front of Mama and watched her eyes go wide and soft at the same time. He sent Chizoba money for her rent without being asked. He posted one photo online. New outfit, clean background, chin raised. The caption read simply, "From the trenches to the top. God did it." By morning, the comments were flooding in. People who had walked past him on the street were now typing his name in capitals. Boys who had laughed from tinted windows were sending heart emojis. The praise felt like warm water over a cold body. Like medicine. Like proof that hunger, pushed hard enough, could become fuel. Then Chizoba called. Her voice was not celebrating. "Taiwo," she said quietly. "That money came very fast. What exactly did they ask from you in return?" He had no ready answer. Chief Bao's demands arrived slowly. the way rising water does. You do not notice until it reaches your knees. First, always pick up. Always be ready. Then, sit with this sponsor tonight. Keep him entertained. Do not ask about his business. Then, whatever you hear in these rooms stays in these rooms. You are family now. Taiwo told himself each demand was small, temporary, the price of access. Then Madame Kemi Gold appeared. She was older, dressed in wealth so quiet, it looked like comfort. She spotted Taiwo at one of Chief Bio's events and pulled him aside. "You have the kind of face the public will trust," she said. "I can make you the symbol of this entire festival season." Taiwo felt chosen, elevated, like he had passed some invisible test. Chizoba met Madame Kemi once and felt something she could not explain. A coldness behind the woman's warmth, like a fire painted on paper. "That woman is not your helper," Chizoba told Taiwo. "She is your buyer." Taiwo laughed. He should not have laughed. That week, he was invited to a private gathering at Madame Kemi's mansion. He was told it was where real decisions were made. Madame Kemi's mansion sat behind tall walls and silent guards who did not look at your face when they let you in. Inside, the floors were soft underfoot. Art hung on walls that had never seen peeling paint. Men sat in corners speaking quietly, the way men speak when they are certain no one can hear them. Everything whispered power without shouting it. Madame Kemi walked Taiwo through the rooms slowly. She introduced him to men whose names appeared in newspapers, men who owned land with no public address, men who smiled the way animals smile, with teeth, but no warmth. "People are built in rooms like this," she told him. "Then they are sold to the public as success stories. The public buys them. The men who build them own the profit." Taiwo understood. He was being shown something, not just wealth, but the machine that produced it. Then Madame Kemi turned to him and spoke directly. "I want to sponsor your rise, Taiwo, all the way to the top." She paused. "On one condition." He looked at her. "Loyalty," she said, without questions. The room felt smaller suddenly. The air felt borrowed. But Taiwo nodded. They rebuilt him like a house with a new face painted over the old one. New clothes arrived. Not borrowed, but his. Chief Bio hired a stylist, a photographer, and a social media manager. They gave him a stage name, TD Kenta. They coached him on what to say in interviews, which parts of his story to share, which to seal away. Taiwo stopped telling people he grew up in a one-room house with leaking walls. The story became humble beginnings, said with a smile, vague enough to sound relatable, but clean enough not to make anyone uncomfortable. His old neighbors greeted him at the market. He smiled briefly and kept walking. Too much distance now between who he had been and who they were building him into. Kola, an older performer in the circle, pulled Taiwo aside one quiet evening. "They are polishing you," Kola said. "Do you know why men polish something before they sell it?" Taiwo said nothing. "Because a polished thing catches more light, and more light brings more buyers." He walked away before Taiwo could reply. The warning sat in Taiwo's chest like a stone, not heavy enough to stop him, but heavy enough to feel each time he breathed. The praise became a drug, and Taiwo took it every day without measuring the dose. His videos spread online like fire on dry grass. He trended twice in 1 month. Brands called. A clothing company used his image. Men who had mocked him now stopped to greet him first, loudly, in public, as if they had always believed. He began to live for the noise. Not just enjoy it, need it. On quiet days, something inside him felt thin and restless, like a battery running dangerously low. Chizoba visited his apartment. She walked through the rooms, looking at the photos on every wall. all of him, all taken by someone else's camera, all showing a version of himself he had to perform to maintain. She sat beside him and studied his face. "Your eyes look different," she said. "I am happy," he told her. "Happy and hungry are not the same thing," she replied softly. "One fills you, the other eats you from inside, and you do not feel it going until it is already gone." That same week, Chief Bio told Taiwo the next level required stronger commitment. Taiwo asked what that meant. Chief Bio smiled and said he would understand when the time came. Stronger commitment had a very specific shape. "Carry this package to the address inside. Do not open it. Do not be late." Taiwo carried it, then the next one, then another. "Escort this sponsor home. He is drunk. Make sure no one photographs him." Taiwo did it, then did it again without being asked. When a scandal broke after one late gathering, Taiwo was told which story to confirm if journalists called. He confirmed it. Each task brought more money. Each brought deeper access. Each time, he told himself it was the last. Then one night, a package tore in his hands. Moving quickly through a back corridor, the bag caught a sharp corner and split open. He looked down. Inside was a bundle of old cloth, brown and stiff. Festival beads, the old kind, the sort no one had made in 20 years. And a dark stain running through the fabric that could only have been one thing. Blood. Old blood. Dried into the weave like a secret stitched in on purpose. Taiwo stood very still in that corridor. His hands stopped shaking eventually. But something else had started moving inside him. Something that felt horribly like recognition. He brought the cloth home hidden under his jacket. He should not have, but something pulled him, the way a wound pulls your fingers toward it, even when you know you should not touch. He laid it on the kitchen table. Mama came in for water. She turned. Her eyes fell on the cloth and the beads. The cup fell from her hands. "Where did you get that?" Her voice was barely a sound. "It was inside a package I carried for Chief Bayo," Taiwo said. "Mama, what is it?" She did not answer for a long time. Her eyes stayed on the beads. Her hands gripped the counter's edge. "Those beads," she finally whispered. "Match the ones your father wore to the festival the night he died." Taiwo felt the floor tilt beneath him. "He never came home with them," she continued. "I always wondered. I thought they were lost with his body. But they were not lost, were they?" She looked up at her son. "They were kept. By who?" Taiwo asked. Mama shook her head and walked back to her room without another word. But through the thin wall, he could hear her crying. And somewhere beneath the city, something old was waking. The next event was held near the old lagoon grounds, the same place the festival had been held 20 years before, the same grounds where his father's body had been found. Taiwo told himself it was coincidence. He danced, he smiled, he performed. The crowd was generous. Then a drunk sponsor fell from a second-floor balcony during an argument at the after-party. The man did not die, but it was close. Bones cracked, blood on the tile. Panic moved fast through the crowd. Taiwo watched Chief Bayo move through the chaos like a man who had rehearsed this exact moment. Calm voice, quiet orders to staff. A new story assembled in under 10 minutes. He slipped. He was tired. Nobody pushed him. Taiwo stood near the wall and watched truth be replaced quietly, efficiently, without guilt. Then from somewhere inside the building, a drum started playing. Short pattern, deep tone. Taiwo stopped breathing. He knew that rhythm. He had heard it only once, screamed about by an old woman in a crowded square. It was the death beat, and it was coming from inside Chief Bayo's own gathering. Taiwo pressed his back against the wall. The drum continued. Nobody else seemed to hear it at all. The next morning, Taiwo told Chief Bayo he wanted out after the festival season ended. He kept his voice steady. He said it like a business decision. Calm, reasonable, already settled. Chief Bayo listened without interrupting. Then He smiled, not warmly, the way a man smiles when he has already won an argument before it began. "Let me remind you of a few things," he said. He listed them. The packages, the lies confirmed to journalists, the sponsors escorted, the scandals smoothed over. "Every one of these things carries your fingerprints, Taiwo. Not mine, yours." Taiwo said nothing. "Nobody leaves this circle clean," Chief Bio continued. He stood and adjusted his agbada. "You are not my protege. You are an asset. Assets do not resign." That night, Taiwo returned to his apartment. The door was unmarked, but on the floor in front of it, drawn in red powder, was a symbol he had never seen, like a circle with a break in it, like something entering and not leaving. He stepped over it. Chizoba came the next morning, saw it, and went completely still. "Someone from the old circles has touched your door," she said. "This is a warning, or a claim." Chizoba explained it. Red powder markings came from old spiritual circles, the kind that operated beneath the city, in rooms where daylight was not welcomed. Taiwo should have been afraid. He was. But fear and desperation had mixed into something reckless. He had too much to lose, and nowhere to run upward, so he ran downward. A whisper reached him through a man at the market. A name. Baba Etiko. A place. Under the old bridge near the lagoon, where the water smelled of herbs and the ground stayed soft no matter the season. Taiwo went alone, past midnight. The bridge hummed with traffic above. Below, candles burned in the mud. The smell came first. Smoke, old roots, something iron, something sweet. Baba Etiko was old, but not frail. His eyes were clear, the eyes of a man who had seen much and judged nothing. He looked at Taiwo like this visit was expected. "You carry their smell," he said. "You have been touched by their road." He tilted his head. "I can protect you, or I can arm you." Taiwo looked at the candles. Then he asked the question Chizoba had begged him never to ask. "How do I beat them?" Baba Etiko did not answer immediately. He moved to a low shelf, touching jars and bundles and things Taiwo could not name. He worked without rushing, the way a man works when he already knows how the story ends. Then he told Taiwo plainly what the ritual would give: favor that opened doors, fear that moved enemies aside, and a force that brought revenge like a trained animal to his feet. "But the prize will not arrive all at once," he said. "It comes in pieces. Sleep, peace, truth, bloodline." Taiwo heard the words. He understood them the way you understand a warning sign in a language you are still learning. Not fully, but enough to know it mattered. He said yes anyway. Baba Etiko made a small cut on Taiwo's palm. He washed it with bitter water that burned. He marked Taiwo's collarbone with white chalk and whispered over him for a long time. Words that sat in the air like smoke refusing to lift. Then he looked up. "One last thing. Never, for any reason, dance to an unknown drum again." Taiwo nodded and walked home before dawn. His palm throbbed steadily. He did not yet know he had stepped onto his father's unfinished road. The change came quickly and without noise. Rivals stumbled without visible cause. A competing performer who had been mocking Taiwo online broke his ankle at rehearsal. A brand deal taken from Taiwo was returned after the other party withdrew without explanation. Old doors opened. Crowds grew louder. People who had been cold to him now welcomed him like they had always planned to. Even Kola began avoiding Taiwo's eyes. Taiwo felt sharp and alert, like the noise around him had been cleared away. He could read a room before entering it, sense a lie before it was spoken. His instincts felt almost unnatural, but sleep became something he could not hold. He would close his eyes and hear drumming in rooms he knew were empty. He would wake at 3 in the morning with cold certainty that someone was standing near his bed. And some mornings, his knuckles were dirty, as if he had worked with soil in the night, though the floor beside him was clean. Chizoba came one evening and found him in the dark, speaking quietly. Not on the phone, not to her. She listened from the doorway. He was speaking to their dead father. She stood there before turning and walking slowly back outside. Chief Bayo's move came without warning, the way calculated betrayals always do. On a Tuesday morning, Taiwo woke to his phone screaming with notifications, videos, screenshots, a blog post, then 2, then 20. Chief Bayo had released everything. Edited videos that made Taiwo look unstable. Fake receipts suggesting he stole from sponsors. Selected truths stripped of context, arranged into one clean story. This man used dark means to rise. He is a fraud. The internet swallowed it completely. Brands disappeared within hours. Management went silent. The same blog pages that had built him up now tore him apart with equal enthusiasm. Comment sections flooded with mockery from people who had never met him. Madam Kemi released a brief statement saying she did not know Taiwo closely and wished him well. The crowd that had screamed his name now called him cursed and fake. He sat in his apartment watching Chief Bayo laugh easily on a live broadcast, comfortable, relaxed, performing innocence for thousands of believers. Taiwo's hands were shaking again. But this time, it was not disbelief. This time, something burned inside him that did not want to be called by its honest name. It wanted to be called justice, but its real name was rage. He went back to Baba Etiko, not calmly. He walked fast through the city, jaw tight, not looking at people who stared because they recognized his face from the blogs. He moved like a man who had stopped being afraid of where he was heading. He told Baba Etiko what happened and said what he wanted. Baba Etiko listened and prepared something stronger. Taiwo did not ask what was in it. He drank what was given. Within 2 weeks, Chief Bayo's world began to shake. One major sponsor was arrested in connection with a land fraud buried for years. Another fled the country. An old recording surfaced. Chief Bayo's voice, unmistakably his, discussing a payment that should not have existed. Festival permits he had arranged were blocked. Allies who had stood beside him for a decade turned quietly away. The powerful man was cracking. Taiwo watched each piece fall from a distance and felt something in his chest he called justice. But Chizoba stood at his window one evening, counting signs she had been watching for weeks. Every time one of his enemies falls, something new appears near this house. She pointed at the doorstep. Wet sand, shaped like a footprint, facing inward. The signs multiplied the way trouble does, quietly at first, then all at once. Wet footprints appeared on his apartment floor with no source. He would wake and find them leading from his bed to the wall and stopping, not returning. At 3 in the morning, the drumming came so loud he checked every room. No speaker, no neighbor, no source, just rhythm pressing through the walls as if it lived inside them. He woke one morning with soil under his fingernails and dirt on his feet. He had not left the apartment. Mama came to visit and stopped in the doorway. She smelled the air the way animals sense danger before it arrives. "Your father used to wake like this in his last weeks," she said. Dirt under his nails. Drum sounds in empty rooms. He thought he was losing his mind. She looked at Taiwo. He was not. Something had found him. Chizoba arrived that evening and spoke without softening the words. "You must stop now, before you become the very thing that destroyed Papa." The next morning, Taiwo returned under the bridge. Baba Etiko looked at him and said quietly, "The ritual was never only protection. It was a blood claim, and it is feeding." The signs multiplied the way trouble does, quietly at first, then all at once. Wet footprints appeared on his apartment floor with no source. He would wake and find them leading from his bed to the wall and stopping, not returning. At 3 in the morning, the drumming came so loud he checked every room. No speaker, no neighbor, no source, just rhythm pressing through the walls as if it lived inside them. He woke one morning with soil under his fingernails and dirt on his feet. He had not left the apartment. Mama came to visit and stopped in the doorway. She smelled the air the way animals sense danger before it arrives. "Your father used to wake like this in his last weeks," she said. Dirt under his nails. Drum sounds in empty rooms. He thought he was losing his mind. She looked at Taiwo. He was not. Something had found him. Chizoba arrived that evening and spoke without softening the words. "You must stop now, before you become the very thing that destroyed Papa." The next morning, Taiwo returned under the bridge. Baba Etiko looked at him and said quietly, "The ritual was never only protection. It was a blood claim, and it is feeding." Taiwo arrived at the festival grounds before the main crowd. He moved through the back paths, past food vendors and wire cables. He found a position near the front where he could see the full stage. When the lights came up, Chief Bayo walked out to enormous applause. Confident, performing recovery for the crowd. He spoke about the city's spirit. People loved every word. Then the masked drummer in red walked to center stage. The rhythm started, deep, rolling, ancient. From somewhere in the crowd, a sound rose above everything else, a long, high wail full of years and grief. Mama had come. Chizoba had brought her. She stood with her hands over her mouth, tears running fast. "That is it," she cried. "They played it to cover his screams. That is the rhythm from the night they killed my husband." The drummer stopped. The crowd murmured. Then the drummer reached up and removed the mask. It was Kola. His face was wet. His voice cracked when he spoke. "I was 14. They told me to drum or they would kill me too." He turned and pointed at the VIP stand. "The man who gave the order is still here tonight." The VIP stand was bright with camera lights. But one man had gone very still. Chief Bayo sat in his chair as the moment turned around him. His smile remained. The kind of smile that does not yet know it is finished. What followed took less than an hour, but felt like a dam breaking after years of pressure. Old voices came forward. People who had carried separate pieces of the truth for decades, because no single piece was enough to be believed alone. Together, they formed something impossible to deny. Old recordings, financial documents, testimonies about land stolen and paid for in ways that could never appear in any official record. Festival funds used to reward silence, to keep a machine running that buried anyone who threatened to speak. Taiwo's father had discovered the machine. He had prepared to speak, so they made sure he never did. Chief Bayo stood finally, his composure cracking. "Your father wanted to become exactly what I am," he said, pointing at Taiwo. "He lost his nerve at the end." His smile turned ugly. "And you are already worse than both of us." Police entered from the east side of the grounds. The crowd parted, like water finding a path through stone. The drums rose again. Not from the stage. From somewhere beneath the ground, pressing up through Taiwo's feet, moving through his bones, pulling at what Baba Etiko had placed inside him. The ritual wanted to finish. The circle needed blood to close. He felt it like hands on both shoulders. Like every night of borrowed power calling in its full debt. He stood in the square while the world moved around him. Police, crying families, cameras flashing. Still, like a man making a decision only he could make. Chizoba reached him first. She took his hand. Mama stood on his other side. He reached under his shirt and pulled out the charm. Small, dark, still warm. He looked at it. Then he placed it on the ground and crushed it beneath his foot. The release was quiet, like a door swinging open after years locked from inside. Chief Bayo was arrested before sunrise. Taiwo left without applause, without a stage name, without borrowed power. He left carrying only his father's name, not with pride, not with pain, with understanding. Behind him, a silent drum lay in the dust. Patient, waiting for the next proud dancer who did not know what rhythm was hiding inside the celebration. Morale. The road that answers a hungry man's prayer is not always the road to his blessing. Sometimes it is the road that killed someone he loved. Know the rhythm before you dance to it, and never let praise blind you to what the music is truly saying.
If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to be reminded. These things quietly change the world. Another story is coming very soon. Subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss it. Thank you for watching.